Now, before I present our next speaker, just a little bit of a housekeeping. We have a dinner tonight, and to understand better Brazilian gemstones, we will have samba and carnival dancing. So maybe it's a good idea to bring comfortable shoes. Maybe you take your tie-offs, and so we can be more relaxed. And the buses will be in the entrance of the hotel at 7 p.m. So try to be there at 7 p.m. so we can all go together. So without further ado, the last guest of our rich program of today's Congress, Çiğdem Lule. I hope my Turkish is really well. She is Executive Director of the Association of Independent Jewelry Valuers. And as a woman gemologist, she has received 2 awards, the AGA Bonanno Award for Excellence in Gemology, 2016, and also the Catriona McGuinness Award in 2000, medal. 2019. So what an accomplishment. She's also a mineralogist. She has worked for GIA as an instructor. She has a very, very big passion for education and also for Gem Guide. Ladies and gentlemen, big applause, Çiğdem Lule.
I'm short. Good afternoon. And thank you for this invitation to ICA. First of all, I'm really excited and happy to be here. Also for this wonderful organization, I'd like to thank IBGM because this is my first time in Brazil, not only in Brasilia. So far, this has been a wonderful experience. I'm here to talk about something that I don't normally talk about much. I go to many different meetings, events, and gemological conferences and talk about gemology, archaeogemology, different things that are more technical. And ever since I was introduced to AIJV, I became more interested in valuation practices, and as it is called in the United States, appraisal practices, appraisal profession. And since my background is actually, my first degree is in geoengineering. Then I moved on to mineralogy with master's and PhD. So everything about rocks and shiny stuff is within my radar, basically. I'd like to see anything and everything beautiful, and I am in love with nature, with all the beautiful rocks and minerals and gemstones that it can produce. So in time, naturally, things went on not only understanding their value and importance, but also to be able to express their value to the third party, which is generally the consumer in this case. And with that, AIJV had always been in my radar because I like the independent part in that group. It was actually first came to fruition in about 2008, and there were 3 groups that US, UK, and Ireland, appraisers, or valuers as they call them there. They were fierce about being independent, which I will explain what it is in a few slides on. And then it became an unincorporated organization completely operating online in 2010. And in 2018, I took over the organization and made it an American corporation. And now, being an independent appraiser and independent appraisal group, our mission is to be able to spread the word out, how appraisals can help the colorstone industry more than anything else. I'm saying this for colorstone industry not because I'm an ICA, but I've always worked with colorstones. My background was in teaching, taught gemology. Yes, part of it was diamonds, but sorry for diamond lovers, I'm not the huge diamond fan. But also being a mineralogist and seeing the complexity of all the other beautiful gemstones and minerals always attracted me to color stones. And I ended up at the Gem World International, you might know as by their publication, the Gem Guide, I developed courses for them and taught pricing courses, workshops for 6 years but almost 10 countries in the world. So everything is about color stones. And when I look at these beautiful developments happening in the color stone industry, especially, we all experienced it today with all the different talks and all different angles coming to the same point, that is education, which is I'm passionate about. So I'm here to explain to you what an appraisal is, what appraisal practice is about, and how we can actually cooperate within this and work together to make it a little bit more interesting and more educational to the consumer, rather than consumer learning everything from Google University. So here we are. Now, I'd like to give you the overview. I think I pretty much explained that. The independent appraisal profession, I will explain that. The advantages of working with an independent appraiser, also an appraiser being a beyond valuer, not just to put a price on something, but what else an appraiser can do for you as you are in different parts of the color stone business at different levels. So what is an appraisal? It's a valuation or appraisal. It's a defendable opinion of a value supported by evidence. The key word here is evidence. We're not talking about just value that somebody puts on it or decided what it should be, but if I am writing a report that is going to be potentially used in a court case, I need evidence to be able to sign that report for the number that I'm putting on it. And that value is going to be based on experience and research. So we do a lot of research in our appraisal practices. So when I talk to people, this is generally the case. Oh, well, why on earth we need an appraiser for anything other than insurance appraisal? Well, there are many reasons. There are lots of legal situations involved, and I do a lot of legal-based assignments, actually. Instead of doing individual public appraisals for jury, my cases are generally on donations, legal cases, divorce. There's so many things, you know. And if you tell me that, oh, well, how come anything other than jury get involved? Well, gem and mineral collectors divorce too. So there are ways of looking at these things. Generally goes into tax liability. Donation is the main thing, especially in the United States. I don't know how it works in Brazil, for example, but because there is a tax relief coming from a big donation, and these people are giving so much when they are donating to certain institutions, it needs to have an independent appraisal report signed by a qualified appraiser, which I will come to in a minute. I mentioned legal cases. If you think that legal cases are only for, say, divorce, it's not. I worked with customs, for example. There are lots of fraudulent sales and coming to the country or trying to smuggle. I've seen tons of rocks that are being tried to be smuggled to the country. So it's interesting how people can push their boundaries sometimes. So there are a lot of fraudulent investment situations involved. I don't know how many of you receive these phone calls every week like I do. I have the biggest sapphire in the world. It is $500 billion, and I need an appraiser for it, which I'm not that person. So, and the most common one is actually out of this whole list is that I just want to know what it's worth. Give me a ballpark figure. My favorite sentence, give me a ballpark figure. Based on what? So it doesn't work like that. I can see appraisers in the room that nodding their heads, so I'm sure you share my pain. And the list goes on. So what do? We look at the market. this list here is a just basic market list, but they're all directly related to consumer. As you see, there are no wholesale or anything like that. So we're looking at retail, we're looking at store, again, directly related to or directly in touch with the consumer. These can be chains, these can be single brick and mortar shops, or as the generation goes on, as the new technology goes on, we have a lot of internet stores that are actually not existing physically, but they are online stores. And there's a big designer market out there. We're not talking about just big markets or big designer names here, but there are lots of what you can call the cottage industry designer names out there. And internet actually makes it possible, especially with COVID, when people were stuck at houses and they couldn't do anything. Do you know what soared during COVID? The highest numbers were achieved during COVID were the auction prices. Auction houses did their best since they ever existed during COVID closure. So. And that can be both online and traditional, which today it's a hybrid situation, although there are traditional auction houses, but all traditional auction houses moved on to online model as well. And then we look at liquidations for many different reasons. It could be a closure of a business, it could be, again, could be another sale of a collection and so on. All these things require an independent third party. Now, maybe as in the Colorstone business, you are as a dealers or working in labs and so on, you're not in touch with the public for these reasons directly. That's when the appraiser comes into the picture, and this is where we are with it. Now, anybody, any individual providing valuation services is an appraiser. Pay attention, I'm not talking about any qualifications, any certificate, diploma, nothing like that. What happens is when an appraiser becomes an appraiser, there are choices. The person can call themselves an appraiser and then just go ahead and put numbers, random numbers on a piece of paper and sign it. As long as they're not going to be held responsible from it, they can get away with it. The day they are held responsible, they would say, oh, I don't have any qualifications. As far as I know, both in many European countries and in the US, there are no laws and regulations to force anybody to get a particular appraisal qualification. So anybody can be an appraiser, yet if you take this business, if you take this practice seriously, then there are many qualifications to be achieved, to be done. Part of my model, I'm an educator, therefore I could never do anything without getting the formal education on it. I had to go through that as well. It is necessary because you learn a lot of things while you're learning to be an appraiser. You'd be surprised how many people, even when they are students in gemology, let's say I taught for GIA for a long time, and then I was amazed by the students coming and saying as soon as they have their diploma, oh, now I'm becoming an appraiser. Well, you're not. You're a gemologist, but not an appraiser yet. Because you have not learned anything about the market, the pricing. The experience is important here. So if you are dealing with any appraiser, independent or not, and being non-independent is not a bad thing, by the way. I'm only emphasizing the independent part of it here, but all the other appraiser colleagues I have are incredibly valuable and experienced people as long as they have the qualifications. So please pay attention what kind of qualifications they have if you are dealing with an appraiser. So the requirements for an appraiser to be is they need to be objective, they need to be unbiased, and they need to be credible. then they need to be competent. For example, I have no competence in antique jewelry whatsoever. Although I've got my appraisal qualifications, I have my gemology qualification, I know something about jewelry. But if I ever receive any assignment that is related to antique jewelry, I would call my competent colleagues to work with. Yet, I know what I'm competent with. I am very competent in mineral appraising area, which is quite rare. And also gemstones, obviously being in the gemstone market and working with color stones gives me that. So I know where I stand at least, and all the responsible people who are calling themselves appraisers will know where to stand in that regard too. There are 3 ethics points here that are very important. One is never disclose personal information of the client. Not charge fees based on percentage of the value conclusion. If your emerald is $100,000, I'm going to charge you $10,000. If it turns out to be a synthetic, then you can give away just $5. You're okay. It doesn't work like that. As an appraiser and a gemologist, I do the exact same work on it. I only charge for my time. And that's how it should be. Not accept commissions or goods in kind from any party. This is important because then it creates conflict of interest. We don't do that. What separates an independent appraiser from all the other appraisers that are compliant with these items is that we don't buy, sell, or broker. What does that mean? You want to work with an independent appraiser, you're working on a very big project. Let's say that you have a suite of cashmere sapphires and you need to explain the value of it. I know people with cashmere sapphires, so don't laugh. You need to present the evidence, the value, and so on. And I'm not going to go there and say, okay, I'm going to do this work, but you need to give me some form of a commission. It doesn't work like that. An independent appraiser will spend more time, more research time, and do a lot of work to be able to put a report together for that particular very rare item. But it's not going to be any different than any other suite of sapphires, for example. So the independent appraiser will only charge for the time, and it is very important to understand. Well, true independence comes with a lot of hats. You need to be wearing a lot of hats here. I love this photo. It's actually quite reflective. When you're an independent appraiser, you are not just a valuer. In times, if you're not signing a report, you are actually being an advocate to your client. You can actually do consultation. I have so many clients coming and saying that I just bought this ring, I need to know exactly what it is, did I pay the right price, can you look at it? And that's what we can do. At that point, we're not doing any valuation work, we're literally confirming what they have bought, or maybe giving the bad news, which is very common. Independent appraisers are generally the bad guys when they don't give the expected news. So you have to remember that too. Most of the times what we discuss is value versus price. And it is difficult to explain in so many ways, but my most favorite example is that a bottle of water in a desert. You can buy that bottle of water in a store on a nice place that has a lot of water that maybe it's $1, and then you move on to a luxury hotel and get it for $3. If you're in an airport, you might be paying $5. But then if you are in a desert and you're desperate because you need to have some water, you're not going to even discuss the value of it or the price of it. Whatever you can give, you will give it to that. So putting a value on something, it doesn't mean that putting a price on it. They're not the same things. And also, this is very applicable to the color stone industry. What is valuable and what is high price are two entirely different things, and you know that. The value of a small mine in a small country, and then finding something really important within that mine goes beyond price. Yet, if you are dealing with a big established gem dealer, and then there are categories of prices. They're just prices. They might as well be selling rings or shoes, maybe. But when they are selling gems, that's a different story, because how they came from the very beginning to the end adds a lot of value. And Brian explained that at the previous talk as well. In fact, so many things that I wanted to say today were already told, so I don't want to repeat. But one of those things that value and price are two entirely different things, and appraisers are very good at explaining that to the clients. We are in consumer education. Whichever angle you look at from, when a client comes to our offices, or when we are in touch with for any reason with a group of people, we educate them in terms of gemstones, in terms of jewelry, in terms of minerals, whichever way that they need to learn the value. Because the more interesting information you give them, the more curious they will get, and then you will be able to teach them what it is. So it comes with a lot of educational background to be a good appraiser, to be able to explain that. In my practice, for example, I create classes for appraisers. In my practice, I create classes and teach to public, and they're not the same things at all. We speak entirely different languages when I am with different groups. So it is important to understand that the world became very, very small, and the reason it became small is internet, and all the information pulled from internet has no verification basis. And you have to give a verified information to your client. And sometimes it is very difficult. If I don't give my client the expected news, they would argue with me over a quote on Google. It's not an unusual thing. So what I'm trying to tell you here, as within the Colorstone business, we really need to understand how we can reach at the consumers, how we can collaborate, how we can cooperate. I want to give you some numbers. I mean, speaking of appraisals and not giving any numbers is unusual, so I have to do that. But just a simple thing that took my attention. There was not an article, it was a small note in Gems and Gemology in fall 2023 issue. And an online company did a review and also a little survey on what kind of gemstones, color gemstones, that their clients or their followers would be interested in. So based on 300 survey people, they basically got the results from 300 people, and the age is between 18 and 35. So this is an important range. We're not looking at the older generation. We're not looking at the people who cannot buy as too young. But we are talking about a very young generation, including both millennials and Gen Zers. And 300 might be a small number, but this is actually quite in line with my experience in general. So the questions were what the perception and preference would be in colored stones. So 30% of the 300 people said that the first thing they would look at a color stone for a reason to buy would be the aesthetics. So think about it. it's not about if it is a ruby, sapphire, or a quartz, but how beautiful it is. And I've seen this over and over again. And it is important to understand this. I'm so happy that this is happening in Brazil, because Brazil is one of the most important countries to understand how important the good cutting is. So in order to unlock the beauty in a gemstone, in a mineral even, or an ordinary looking small stone, a beautiful cut would change everything. And in order to unlock that beauty, the cutter would put a lot of effort into that. It is important. So aesthetics is not just about what the gemstone is, it's about how it is cut and presented too. And then the second point that they would look at, and that was actually 35% of them asked for authenticity. Meaning, if these stones are natural, synthetic, and where they came from, and obviously you will think about responsible resourcing at that point. Yes, responsible resource or sustainable and ethical, that's how they worded it. Again, just like Brian, I have preferences in words, so ethical jewelry or ethical gems that don't sit well. But definitely sustainable and responsible are important words to be used. And I would expect that this generation would pay a lot of attention to this point, but only 10% of it would look into that. However, all of them expressed a strong desire for more knowledge from identification to history of gemstones, meaning everybody needs a story to buy a gemstone. Again, today, I don't know, this is the 5th time it is said. So it tells us, and why am I telling you all these things? I don't know how many of you would be directly in touch with these generations or new buyers from internet as gemstone dealers or laboratories. Through internet, maybe if you have an online model, but not many of you would not be. And my suggestion here and hope that we can work together and we can cooperate in order to make the consumer to be spoken directly from you instead of them learning from Google and all the unnecessary resources that they think is correct, because most of them are incorrect. So my call here and hope is that as appraisers, when we go to gem shows, it is very difficult to communicate with people sometimes, because if they don't know you, and if you tell them you're an appraiser, clearly you're not a buyer, and that's it, end of story. Unfortunately, this has been the case many times, and I actually have friends that would tell me directly saying, well, I don't want to waste my time with an appraiser at a trade show. And it's understandable. What I want to tell them is this. An appraiser knows everybody, interestingly. A client comes to me, they need to buy something, I can direct them to a person. A client comes to me and they need repair for their jewelry, I can direct them to the right person. But communicating between us is very important, and I really want to see more cooperation coming from trade organizations. Also, I would like to see more effort coming from trade organizations to educate public. There are many ways of doing that. Organizations like AIJV can do that with the organization support and trade organization support. But I'd like to leave you with that thought and thanking you for your attention. But please consider what we can do together for educating the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chidam. Thank you very much. We do have a few minutes for questions. So if anyone, yes, Ioannis, wait for the microphone, please.
Thank you. Ioannis again. Actually, it's not a question. Maybe I will help in your work. Usually, in an appraisal case, what we face actually, first of all, is when you put in a tag on a price, you have to think that this price will go somewhere else in this certificate, and they will ask again. And if you are lucky enough to go to an appraisal office, you will get almost the same. If you are unlucky enough that you go in an auction house, the price you put is almost half. And then begins the fun. Second thing is, you're completely right that most of the people will buy because something is beautiful. Depends on the country. I faced, and we had a couple of years ago, the situation, or that is not so much anymore in China, people were buying certificates. And just a name, nothing else. So appraising a gem or appraising a piece of jewelry is not an easy thing, certainly not. And one more thing, you have a client that has a beautiful stone, and then it's from an important provenance. You didn't put that on the certificate, you are done, literally done. Because you have to put that, and I'm not talking about the sentimental value, because sentimental values can be from 0 to 1 billion. But if there is a certain provenance, which is very important, it has also to be included. You said you're not dealing with the antique jewelry. We have this problem, we're facing this problem a lot of times. And especially when it's something signed and with a particular provenance, everything will be considered completely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate all those comments. I should have actually mentioned the internet buying with a certificate. It was in my notes, but I somehow passed it. The beauty of the color stone industry is that maybe it's a small situation, or maybe an unusual situation happened, but people still are buying their colored stones by looking at the stone, whereas diamonds are sold by their reports. So, and also, thank you for the provenance. It is important in gems and minerals too. Who own it first, or where it came from, is a very, very important thing. I do archaeogemology, so I'm not going to even go there with that, but yeah, research is the key. Thank you.
Dax, please.
Good afternoon, Chidam.
Hi.
Thank you for your talk. I've got a question. I have friends who do appraisals for museums, and such as the Smithsonian, and I have other friends who do appraisals for smaller companies and malls and things like that. Could you advise us in the audience, how should a valuer or an appraiser represent their time to the community at the different levels, and what does that look like to you, please?
I'm not clear by representing their time. So can you rephrase it?
In effect, I would assume that you either charge a price per piece or a price per hour or something like that. I've heard a pretty large scale of range, and so I just wanted your input, please.
Most common practice, which I apply to, if I need to travel, it is for the travel day. There's a certain charge for it. Then the research and report writing, any experienced appraiser would know how much research time is needed. If it is an extremely unusual case, they could give a range, but in the end, everything is based on hours. So anything going out of that schedule is questionable. Or maybe they have a different practice that they can explain. But in my practice and with my members at AIJV, our practice is definitely by hour.
Well, I appreciate that. I know you do a lot of hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have time for one more question. Please,
Thank
introduce
you.
yourself as well.
My name is Manuela Soares. I came from a gemstone and jewelry industry manufacturer here in Brazil. When we look for the history, gold, diamond has been used at state of value. The Jewish knows very well about that. Do you have any experience, or could you share your thoughts about how could we improve the idea of store of value, or how to use color gemstones in bank operations, for example? How we could use the idea of state of value for color gemstones, not just for bank operations, financial operations in general. And also, I'd like to invite, re-invite the discussion of strategic miners for color gemstones.
If I understood correctly, you're asking somewhat related to investment of colored gemstones. Okay, I personally disagree with that. The reason being is that we know gold is one item, diamond is one item. And we know how extensively they are researched and mined, and they can be recycled too, in a way. But other than any precious metals, most appraiser colleagues of mine would not agree with investments of color stones or diamonds even. Because the earth is capable of producing all sorts of beautiful things. And it's all about fashion, it's all about cultural preferences and civilizations changing from one era to another. So looking at those things, or even discussing it for investments is not something that I would favor, let's put it this way. But obviously, everybody has their own opinions, but this is my opinion. For the second part, I'm not clear what you were asking.
Real quick, please.
Basically, time over.
No, real quick.
We had been talking a lot about the competition of the small-scale mining in Brazil, of the color gemstones. And we are competing with those big miners. Lithium, just for example. Gold, not so much, but lithium, iron, all those kind, niobium. And we had been trying to push our entities in our association to help us to have a fair competition with better and more fair regulation. So that's my first question was connected with the second question.
Oh, okay. So yeah, mining. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not competent in mining area to give you
Okay.
any answer. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
So thank you very much. If it is Mimi, if it is a real quick question, because we have to change our shoes for the dancing.
Good afternoon. My name is Miriam Mimo Kamau. I come from Kenya, and just a little question for you. In today's market, we are selling gemstones with certificates, and these certificates you may find like one stone has about 4 certificates. So how do you and they have all different results. So how do you appraise that?
Thank you. I was expecting this question.
That's a good
First
one.
of all, we always put it a report. It is not a certificate. There is actually a legal reason that it needs to be called a report, not a certificate.
Exactly, yeah.
Number 2, I stand as an appraiser. I note everything in my report. This particular stone has this many reports from this many different country of origin. Therefore, the price range it is. So instead of putting one price based on whatever report it is, it could be the range. But that means educating the client on that more than anything else. I hope that answers your question.
We still have time for one, and of course, you are the boss. You can ask. We can stay here half an hour. No, but sorry, the lady was first.
God,
Yes.
I thought this was a boring talk, and I get the questions. I'm so happy. Thank you.
No, it's not boring. It's really interesting. Go ahead. It's on. Yes.
Hi, I'm Prerna Makharia, India's first jewelry influencer. And I would like to know, are there any institutes that teach the course of learning appraising or valuation? And if there are, could you name a few of them?
Sure. In the United States, there is NAJ, National Association of Jewelry Appraisers. There is ASA, American Society of Appraisers. There is ISA, but they don't have gem and jewelry group within them. They don't have that discipline. In the UK, there is JVA, Jewelry Valuers Association, and there's also IRV. I can't remember the whole name, but it is basically related to NAJ. Exactly. In the UK. There is National Association of Jewelry Valuers in Australia. There is a similar group in New Zealand. And as far as I know, ASA does a lot of international work, and they have international offices as well. But if you need more information, I'm more than happy to send you an email and share them with you. Okay, thanks.
Douglas, 3 minutes.
No, I just wanted to mention we are having our nice dinner tonight. So I hope you'll all behave, but I wanted to mention that a couple of years ago, several very competent women in our organization created an ICA women's group. And if there are any women here in the audience that would like to investigate that group or attend, the good news is it's going to be a meeting tomorrow. The bad news is it's going to be at 7:30 a.m. in the breakfast restaurant. They are open till then. Benny, where are you? Benedict?
She left.
She
left. She left
Okay.
with the bell already.
Benny's kind of been one of the people driving that. Mimo's involved in. There's a lot of the women in our group, and it's a very good group. So if you're interested, they'll be down there at 7:30. It's very informal, very comfortable.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. And thank you, Cheatham, for a wonderful presentation. It was not boring, it was spot on, and appraisals or valuation is something that usually we don't speak about. So thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation. Welcome to Brazil if it is your first time. And comfortable shoes because it will be dancing tonight. Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap up the day.